Hi everybody, welcome to the Creation Ship and welcome to my channel. This one is part of the Index Card a Day Challenge 2023 series. It looks complicated, it looks lovely, but it's super simple and anyone can do this. So right here I have the prompts from Daisy Yellow. This is week 1 and week 2, and one of the ones for week 1 was zebra or stripes. So instantly I started thinking about the napkins. I have this zebra napkin, and I have this, it's called animal prints napkin. I also had several other ones in my stash, but I'm going to use this one. Just a reminder that I'm working on my 5x7 card bases that I'm using as quick, easy signature in my DIY art journal. So I only want that second or that middle part of this napkin. And so I am going to cut off the leopard spots, and I will use that as a border for something else or on a different page. Now, I highly recommend that you keep the plies on before you cut it. I was going to use this in a previous art journal page and I had taken off the plies, so it makes it a little tougher, but not impossible. So I'm just cutting that center portion down, and this part, again, it's going into my stash and I will use it on another day. I'm loving the black and white and those gray tones in the middle of this, and that is going to be a design feature pattern in the background, kind of an Insta background if you wish. So don't think of napkins as having to be focal points. They can be a design or pattern in the background. Now, before I make some decisions, I'm going to audition some things. The Crazy Birds, Tim Holtz Crazy Birds, the Crazy Cats, the dogs are also all the perfect size for this 5x7, and they look great on there. Give them some color and put them on this background. I went through my stash and I found this flower, which I had previously glued onto copy paper. Again, didn't end up using it, so it goes in my collage bin or my focal point bin for occasions just like this. And I'm looking through that same bin. I have these stickers that I got from Dollar Tree, these dragonflies that I fell in love with, had to come home with me from the store, but I haven't used them, and I think they get lost on this background, so I'll save those for another day. So this is the napkin that particular flower came from, and just a reminder, you don't have to use the entirety of a napkin. You can isolate 1 or 2 elements of it and mix and match elements from different napkins. Now this I had glued down with matte medium onto just copy paper, and I leave it in my stash like that. I don't fussy cut it out. Well, 1, I hate fussy cutting, and 2, I don't fussy cut until I know I'm going to use it, because I think that's a waste of time. So here I'm just leaving a small white border around it before I make my final decision about where and how I want to use it on my page. Putting it on the copy paper is a way of making sure when I glue that on top of the zebra stripe, I'm not going to get the zebra stripe coming through and distorting the image of my focal image. Now I'm loving the pink tones of this against the black and white, but I do have some questions or reservations about, is it big enough on this 5x7? It looks a little small, And when I put a quote from my Through the Garden Gate sentiment pack, that one's a little too small. This one looks a little too big. I'm liking the small one, but it does seem to somewhat get lost on this page. So I know I'm going to have to figure out a way to give it a little bit more weight on the page. But first, what I want to do is glue this napkin, this striped part, down onto the card base. Now I haven't gessoed this card base because I didn't know what I was going to do, and since most of it's going to be covered with this napkin, it really is unnecessary to gesso it. If I was putting paint on it, I would have totally gessoed it first because that just helps blend the paint better once I do put it on. Now, if you don't have a napkin that has a zebra stripe pattern on it, there are stencils that you can get that have animal prints. You can even cut randomly kind of zebra stripes out of tagboard and make your own stencil. But I found probably 3 or 4 napkins in my stash that all had zebra stripes. I chose this one because I want that black and white, and some of those were different colors. So the color scheme for this is black, white, and alizarin crimson. And that's it. Super, super simple. This whole page, I think, took under 20 minutes. So I'm still thinking about how I'm going to add weight to it. Please help me grow my channel by hitting that subscribe button, clicking on the bell, and selecting the option to be notified of upcoming videos. Now I have the top and bottom that is white, and I thought about leaving it white, but then I decided I'm going to color it the same color as that floral. And I mixed quinacridone magenta with a little bit of black, but that wasn't quite the right shade. But the alizarin crimson with just a speck of black in it is perfect. Now it's going on and it's very transparent. I'm using Liquitex Basics. It's very, very transparent. So I'm going to let this dry, and I'm going to come in and give it 1 or 2 more coats to build up the depth of color that I want. If you look in the top left-hand corner, you'll see a circle that is that color. I'm going to be using that, and you can see how dark I got it by applying several layers of color. In between layers of color, I do make sure that it's dry. I find that that helps the paint go on a lot better. So there's the circle, and I'm going to use that to build up my focal image. My focal image is going to be the floral, my sentiment, and that circle. What you see, I've added a white circle in between just to make everything work. I've played around with it and I've layered it up. So don't be afraid to build up your focal image if it's too small. So I'm just gluing the white circle on top of the burgundy one. And then the flower is going to layer on top of that, and the sentiment on top of that. And I'm gluing all those 4 elements together before I glue it as an entirety down onto the background. I promised that this was simple. You glued down a napkin, you painted the border one color with a dish of black, you used a punch to cut out circles, painted the circles, and assembled. Kind of feels like I cheated a little bit because it was so easy. Now this background, you could use other colors. If you wanted orange, if you wanted green or teal, any color would look lovely and then match your focal point. There's nothing saying this had to be a floral. It could have been a sunflower, would have looked good on that, as well as some animals. I could have put a black cat on here. Pretty much anything would go with that black and white background. So if burgundy's not your thing, you have options. Now I'm using my angle brush and black acrylic paint, and I am edging my page and my burgundy stripe. The stripe, until I shaded it, was looking a little flat. There wasn't quite enough interest, but I didn't want to put any pattern in it because I wanted to really bring out the stripe pattern of that background napkin. And I'm shading around the circle, the burgundy circle, the white circle, and the sentiment. Are you doing the index card a day challenge? Don't forget, you can tweak it however it works for you. Decide to only do 20 in the 2 months. Try all 61. Use the prompts or don't use the prompts. The goal is to create on a regular basis. Just adding a little bit more shading on the floral. And remember, I had glued it down with the matte medium, and that had turned it into a non-porous surface. I grabbed my letter stamps, and I have some white paint on the blending foam, which I use to apply to the back of the stamp, or to the stamp, and then I'm just stamping with white. Bloom, 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 which goes with the sentiment and ties in with my black and white and alizarin crimson background. I'm not trying to be perfect here. I'm not trying to keep it straight because, well, that's impossible. I've kind of eyeballed the center and where I put the first bloom, and then I'm putting a bloom on either side, and I'm just eyeballing it. When I'm done, I'm sure to clean my wooden stamps to keep them in good repair. If you don't have wooden stamps to stamp your sentiments sometimes, I highly encourage you to get a set. I've used them so much. Put that one upside down, but because everything underneath it is permanent, I can wipe it off and restamp. So I hope you agree at how simple this is, and I hope you agree that you can do this, because you can. Thanks so much for joining me. Until next time, go get creative.